2020, the year that changed the entire world as we knew it. Covid-19 came and nothing has ever been the same. Our guest today shares her first-hand experience with this virus, so stay right there. Let the show begin. Welcome to Unscripted from the beautiful Radisson Blu in Arboretum.
Hi everyone, I've been through a difficult part of my life, but I'm grateful that God saw me through and I am able to help other people who have gone through the same challenges. I am here as a witness that when you're diagnosed with COVID, it's not the end of life. There's life after COVID and all will be well.
Hi, welcome to Unscripted. Thank you as always for tuning in. Now with me today is our guest Elizabeth. Welcome to Unscripted.
Thank you.
Thanks for making time for us. You look lovely.
Thank you.
So I know I already said your name, but feel free to introduce yourself and maybe tell the people at home why you're here or what you'd like them to know about you.
All right. My name is Elizabeth Matunga. I'm married. I'm a mother of two. An 18-year-old and an 18-year-old son and a 14-year-old daughter. I'm a counseling psychologist and a HR practitioner by profession. And I run an organization called Alzheimer's and Dementia Organization Kenya.
Today we're here in another capacity to discuss something different.
Yes.
Last year, 2020, changed. Yeah, everyone, the whole world is affected. It changed many things. Living through a world pandemic, we're still, within the world pandemic. Now, you were directly affected because you contracted COVID-19. Take us back to that time. How did it happen? I'd even asked you during the break, were you, did you have an underlying condition? How did it happen? So take us back to that time and how it happened for you.
All right. I had actually traveled out of the country in January, and I remember when coming back, I kept thinking, oh my goodness, because I started seeing the news that there was this pandemic and everything, and so as I was coming home, I was like, oh my goodness, what will I find when I get home? But it was smooth. I got into the airport and went home. Nothing happened. Then in March, that's now when, of course, the first case was announced in Kenya. And all of us were, wash your hands, be careful,
sanitize, wear a mask,
social distancing. And so that is something I really observed, and I was very particular about places where I went. I never would go to gatherings.
Crowded.
My family used to say I've become but my dad was a policeman, and so they used to make a joke that I've become a policeman's daughter because I almost had jig and everything at the door. You remove your shoes and everything. Yeah. And so around November, I started having a pain on my knee. And I was like, what's going on? So I went to hospital. I was told I have osteoarthritis. Okay. And so I was given an injection. And then I was to get injections for 3 weeks consecutively. Okay. So I went for 2.
This is the first time that's ever happened?
It used to pain, but it was not that bad. Okay. And then so after the 2 injections, I realized I've started coughing. But it was one-off. It's not that cough that really...
Not persistent.
Yeah, and it's not one that makes you think, well, I need to have a checkup. And so I called the hospital and I said, I've realized because after the injections I've started coughing. Is there something wrong? And so they were like, no, it can't be the injection. All this time I'm not even thinking it could be COVID. I mean, I've done everything right in the parameters around me. And so once Saturday morning I woke up and I had a very sharp pain in my stomach. And so I was taken again to hospital at night. And I was told that I had a burst cyst. And it was bleeding. What? So they were supposed to clean it up. But I told the doctor, because I was graduating in December, so I told the doctor, no, you're not going to clean me now. Let me go home. I need to defend my thesis. After that, I can come in.
You're kidding.
That's what I told him.
That was your focus at that point.
That was my focus. I need to go home and just graduate.
Okay.
Actually, so I went home. Then I called a friend of mine because I had palpitations. And so my friend comes home, she's a doctor, and then she looks at me and calls my husband to the kitchen and says, you need to take her to hospital right now. So my husband tells me, let's just go. But the night before, because I was still feeling very bad, I said, you know what, why don't we just do a COVID test and know what the results are? Maybe it could be COVID.
And
I never even got those results because now I've been taken to hospital in the morning.
okay.
And my oxygen levels were at 45 by the time we got to hospital. So I was immediately put on oxygen. And within a seconds, it was not even confirmed. I was admitted at Avenue. And now the next day is now when they confirmed that I actually had COVID.
I see.
So because they put you like in an isolation, well, not really isolation, but a place where they first monitor before they now move you to isolation.
Okay.
So that's how I knew I had COVID.
Yet
I did not have.
It was just a slight cough.
It was a slight cough.
You can't say the other symptoms are related to that.
There were no other symptoms. And before that, I would realize when I go like to the supermarket, I would be breathless. But every time I would go into, you know how they make you check your temperature? It was always normal temperature. So there's nothing to worry you.
Perhaps,
there's nothing to worry you that you're not well. And so, but I would feel like I'm panting. And within the same time, my son was in Form 4 and he had swallowed acid while doing one of the, what are they called? Experiments? Or what do we call them? And so he was, because I'd just come from the same, I live on Langata Road. So I'd come from Galleria. So my husband was like, why don't you take him back to hospital? I said, no, I feel too tired. But so when I called his teacher, later is when he's telling me, I could hear from your voice that you're not okay and you are panting. And I'm like, why didn't anybody tell me anything? Because I'm not seeing it. But I didn't have any underlying condition.
But how was it hearing confirmation from a doctor that indeed it is COVID? Did that?
Actually, it was not even a doctor.
Oh, okay.
You are just, and that is what I didn't like. And I hope that everyone who's listening will not do this to anyone.
Okay.
Because they just pick you up in a wheelchair, because now you're using oxygen, so you have this big tank, and you're taken to isolation. So that's how
you knew.
You knew that now you're told now you're in isolation. That's how you know you have COVID. So nobody took time, to tell you. And I'm claustrophobic. So here I am being taken into isolation and I'm being locked in. I remember begging them, please don't lock me in. Because I could feel my heart was, in fact, it
that was making your heart race.
Yes, race and everything. And I think, and until now, my heart rates are very unstable because of all that experience. And so I wish that somebody would sit down with you. You see, the same way we do for HIV. You're taken through counseling. You're told, in case it is positive, this is what will happen. It's the same thing that they need to do for COVID.
I guess because a pandemic, no one can prepare you for that.
Yes.
And the numbers, because the times the numbers were very high. So I can understand maybe there was a lot of how do you handle this. And I hope now it's different. You hope so?
I hope so too, because it leaves a sour taste in your mouth.
It does, doesn't it? That's probably why people don't share their status.
That's the thing, and because people also shy away from me. Like today, I just had a normal conversation with somebody, and I was like, I need help. And then she asked me, when did you have COVID? And so I could tell from that,
she's
still very,
she can be around
and she can come around me. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, okay. So there's a lot of stigma.
There is.
A lot of stigma. I remember even people who would bring food for my kids, not because they didn't want, but they would just leave it at the gate.
Because they don't want to go in. Before we got deeper into that.
Yeah.
So now you're in the room,
yes.
You're feeling claustrophobic, but
yes.
still you're struggling to breathe.
Yes.
What transpired now after that?
So you have all these machines that are put on you because they have to check your blood pressure, they have to check your heart rates, they've got to check your oxygen levels. And so there's all these machines that are there's so much noise. And somebody like me, I struggle to sleep where there's noise. And so I remember telling them, you know what, why don't you just switch these things off? They're like, no, Liz, you need them. I'm like, I can't sleep. I need to sleep. Just switch them off.
Yeah.
And just before that, before I was actually moved down, the room that I was supposed to be given was given to somebody else. And in the morning, you could see the people rushing around. And before long, the person who was in that room passed on. So already, you're already going down, knowing you might never even come out of there.
Did you have those thoughts?
Yes, I did. Yeah. And I'm glad they actually didn't tell me how sick I was, because I fought.
You did.
Not knowing how sick I was. I thought maybe it's just not so bad, until I was told now when I was out of hospital.
How bad was it? Because you got to a point where you were in ICU, even got into a coma. Yes,
actually, the time when I was telling them to remove the machines and everything, I actually passed on. So I had to be resuscitated, and then I was put on the ventilator. Because now I couldn't breathe on my own. And I remember my family being told that she's on, it's called a CPAP machine, not a friendly machine at all, because you just feel like your whole heart is being ripped out. And so my family was told, you better say a prayer, because we never know. And then also I was intubated, because it was, like I said, I couldn't breathe on my own. And so at that point, I think I was in a coma for a week.
I see.
And then now my husband started coming to see me, and I remember thinking, when he was talking to me, and I'm thinking...
So you could hear?
Yeah, I could hear, but I couldn't tell who he is. And so I would wonder, he knows so much about me, about my kids, talking about my family, and I'm thinking, what's going on here?
Oh, wow. So you couldn't pick from the tone or how he was speaking. It was your husband?
And then, of course, he's coming in all dressed up with the PPEs. So you also can't see very clearly who it is.
How was that experience?
It was hard, but I survived.
You did.
I survived.
You did. What was, I mean, that's a lot for one person. Through that period, what was the most difficult, where you almost felt like, I don't know if I can see the other side?
Being on that ventilator.
That was terrible.
That was not, it was... Every time I would be put, I remember even telling my husband, bring me a watch. So I would ask them, what time am I going in? They tell me. So I look, what time am I getting out? Then I look. As soon as it hits the time, and they are telling them, get it out. Get it out. But it was, and then also not be, at some point now you're not able to use your hands, so you're not able to eat. Yeah, but... Sorry, I'm all over the place.
No, I understand. Before we go on a break, you said you got to a point where you had to be resuscitated. I can't imagine how that is. I don't even know if I can ask, how was that? Like, would you remember what that moment was like?
I actually don't remember.
But how is it
But I
coming
remember being called. I could hear them calling me, and they kept saying, Liz, Liz. But I think that is a point where, because they had put me on the ventilator and I was so frustrated, I actually yanked it out. And so I remember being called. But later is when I was told, actually, we had to resuscitate you. So I think it's at that point where I was blacking out, and because I was not having enough oxygen.
I see. I'm so sorry, but we're glad you're better. And thank you for being here to share your story. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Now, before the break, Elizabeth was just sort of recounting or sharing her experience with us with COVID-19, first-hand experience. And your case was severe. You said can you say how short the moment you passed on and you were not here? For a short moment, you left and you resuscitated back to life. So you literally have a second hand at life here today. At one moment, the doctor tell you you're out of danger now. And how was that moment like for you?
It took a while for the test to come back negative.
Oh, did it?
It took a while. It took about 2 weeks. they put you on the 14 days, and then I had to go another 14 days.
Right.
So
and
finally,
this whole time, what is the treatment? Just for us to understand at home, how are they treating? It's just oxygen.
It was oxygen and now CPAP machine to try and open up the lungs so that more oxygen can go in, because the intake was quite, like when we were during the break, when I was telling you I had 95% lung involvement. That meant I only had 5% of my lungs working.
Wow.
So 95% had been affected by COVID.
And I need to ask this. You said you had no underlying issue at all.
There was no, and I don't even have any. I don't have diabetes,
all.
I don't have blood pressure, nothing.
You're following all precaution.
Yes.
What can you tell, before you even answer that question, to those at home who maybe are still taking it lightly, or now they're lax, they're like, it's a year later, and with, like you've mentioned, you had no underlying issue, you're following precaution, and yet it hit that hard. What can you tell someone at home now who is hearing for the first time the reality of what COVID-19 can be like?
Please don't take it as a joke. It's not a joke. It's a very difficult condition, and you can't take chances. You don't even know if you'll be lucky enough to survive.
Indeed.
So you just have to make sure that do what you can do, right? Don't be lax. Don't just follow all the protocols. Once you've done your best, then leave the rest to God. But it's not a time to take chances at all. It isn't.
It isn't. So for you, when did the doctor clear you? When was it time to go home?
So I was cleared, and I think I went in mid of November to hospital. So I think I was cleared around 7th of December, around that time. That's now
so for about a month you stayed at the hospital?
Yes. So now that is when now you're moved to ICU. Once you are no longer COVID positive.
I see.
And so once you're up in the ICU, it's only for it should be a short while, and then you're able to be moved to the wards. Okay. But since my lungs had been affected, and a bigger chunk of the lungs were affected, it took me longer to recover and to actually start breathing on my own. So I had to be moved from the ICU still to the wards with oxygen, because they could not wean me off oxygen. And so it took, I was in the ward for about 3 weeks. Yeah. But still I couldn't breathe on my own. So the agreement was, let me go home, because the bill of course is accruing and becoming very expensive, especially when you're using the ventilator in hospital and then you're in ICU. So your bill is just going skyrocketing. So I was taken home, but on a concentrator to help me breathe while I'm at home.
How long did you use that?
I used the concentrator from January to March this year.
How was that? Going home but not going home fully well, and then you have family at home.
Yes.
How was it? Yes, with the children. And how was that experience?
It was quite, it was hard. I remember, I didn't even have a house help all along. And so I was mommy. I used to brag and say I'm a super mama. I could do everything. I ran from work, pick my kids, go home and cook and do all these things. And so one of the days, my daughter just came and stood on my hospital bed at home, and she looked at me and asked me, "Mommy, you're going to be like this for the rest of your life?" What? And for me, I was like, no, I'm not going to be like this for the rest of my life. I'm going to fight it. I'm going to get over it. And I remember my son telling me, "Mom, we have to write somewhere where," because my son was now going to do his Form 4. And so he tells me, "Mom, by March, when I'm going in for my exams, you must have stopped using oxygen during the day.
Oh, look at that.
Because you have to take me to school for my exams." And I was like, yes. So we wrote it down. By this date, we shall be out of oxygen. And it happened.
And you were out of oxygen by March.
I was out of oxygen.
So your children helped you heal.
Yes. And I think the challenge, and them looking at me and thinking, "Mom, you're a fighter. Come on, do it."
The role of a mother that challenged you.
And also my husband was very supportive. So I think, and then also family, my parents, my relatives, people in the church. I mean, even the prayers. I mean, all this could not have been possible without prayers.
Amen. So you had a good, solid community
around me.
You mentioned in your introduction you are a psychologist.
Yes.
How did this take a toll on you mentally? And I know this may be a silly question, but was it easier for you because you understand what's happening, or was it more of a challenge? How did you manage and cope?
That's an interesting question, because that's something I'm fighting with every day.
Really?
Because I keep telling myself, you know what, Elizabeth, you're a psychologist.
There you go.
You can deal with
I know
this.
what to do here.
Yeah, but somehow when you're there, it's harder. I've found it harder. I have to keep shaking myself and tell myself, come on, Elizabeth, you have to do this. You have to do this. Sometimes there's no even motivation to do anything. You're just feeling so tired mentally. And I think it's just the toll the disease has on you. Yeah. And then, of course, there's a lot of aches and pains and... Yeah,
post.
Yes, post.
I see.
What they're calling long COVID.
I see. How does it look like, if you could describe to us? What do you feel in terms of the aches and pains?
Of course, in your mind, you have... Like, I'm on antidepressants to help me sleep. Because I think having now been in ICU, your clock is messed up, your sleeping clock. Yeah. And so it takes a bit of time to go back to normal. And then when you, like if I do a 4-kilometer walk, I'll have a lot of pains on my heels.
I see.
On the joints.
But your lungs?
I had a cough, but now it's subsided. My lungs, the good thing about it, it's been improving. My lung capacity, I mean, from 5%, we are now at 74%, which is close to normal. Okay. Normal is 80, so I just have 6. I'm getting there. But yeah, you have to keep talking to yourself and telling yourself, I have to do this. That's true. I cannot sit and do nothing. So you just have to push yourself.
Takes a lot of
but it's not easy.
It's not. Takes a lot of mental strength.
Yes.
But that's why having a support system helps.
That's where they come in.
I would think. Let's go back to, we touched on the stigma. How was that like for you? You said you felt it at home when people came to visit. In hospital, you don't like how they treated or handled your situation. If you could highlight how that was like.
I think, and that's very interesting, you actually bring it back from the hospital, because as soon as they were not having PPEs around you when you are admitted, and then all of a sudden your test comes in and you're positive, and all of a sudden
you're a danger to
PPEs, and they're running, and they don't, even when you ring the bell, nobody wants to support you, to help you. And also another thing, like
it's a very cold place to be when you're there alone.
And then also in ICU, since I was not in a coma, like the rest of the patients who are there, thank God. But it was harder for me because I could see how you're being treated. For example, you need a bedpan. Yeah. And so there's no bell in the ICU. So you have to ring because of course you're going to disrupt everything. So you hit the side of the bed. And there are times you'd hit that bed and you're thinking, you know what, really, I really need to use the bedpan. So there's a lot of, and that time even when I was in ICU, it's not like I was already COVID negative, but already, and I think they knew from what they had seen from my scans. I mean, I don't have long to live, so.
Oh no, that's why they were behaving or treating you
for
that
me,
way.
I felt that way. And so I actually remember calling one of their matrons and telling them, I don't like how I'm being treated. I actually don't like. So, and then at home, okay, we understand. Because now, like I said, my husband also got it. But his was not it was mild.
Okay. So he didn't need to go to hospital.
He didn't need to go to hospital, so he had to isolate at home. But of course, everybody, you're very cautious and very... And I understand it's because you don't... It's a very... From how it was brought on from the beginning, the disease makes you have a fear about it. And so a lot of people...
it's new to all of us.
Yeah, so you have a lot of people wondering how to handle you, and some just leave the food maybe at the gate and take off into their cars and go.
How would you, as you go on a break, how would you wish we would handle it? Whether it's us who are family or friends who are coming to see you or at the hospital, what's the one thing that, we should all be conscious of right now if you know anyone with COVID-19?
I think one of the questions that we shouldn't even ask anybody is, where did you get it?
Okay.
I think
Good.
that's
Thanks
very
for highlighting
insensitive.
that. Okay.
I think it's very insensitive, because if
You
you knew
can't answer
COVID
that
was
question.
here,
Yeah.
I wouldn't pass through there.
You can't answer
But a
that
lot
question.
of people ask you, how did you get it? And you wonder, okay, how do I answer you? Because if there's somebody, like I said, who was very cautious, it was me.
It was you.
But that is one thing I wish people wouldn't ask somebody who's going
Thanks
through
for saying
that. And also be sensitive while you're handling them. They're also going through a very difficult time.
Yeah.
Just be there for them. Even if it can't come and deal with it, don't come at all.
Okay.
I think.
That's a very good point. Thank you, my dear. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. Elizabeth, how was it for your family? How were they affected when you were in hospital fighting for your life? And I don't know if they could come see you. How was that for them, the kids especially, or your children? They're not kids.
The children were not allowed to come in to see me when I was in isolation and in ICU. But my husband at least used to come.
Okay.
But I remember the first time when I was intubated. They picked up my things and put them in a bag, a polythene bag, and gave them to him and told him, Elizabeth will not need this anymore.
Gave to your husband?
Yes. So he was like, what are you saying? So like, no, because that statement even sounds like she's gone. She's not there. And statements that I think maybe they're doctors, I don't know, maybe they need a few tips on how to speak to people. Yeah. And so he panicked. He thought actually I had died. And then I said, no, you go home and pray for the best, because we don't know how it will turn out. And a lot of people, even today when you ask, the people who are intubated, there are very few who have survived.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How does it
few.
So from that statement, having a second lease at life, how do you feel? And how are you seeing and looking at life now?
I think I'm grateful for every minute, for every second, because it just takes, it's just a twinkling of an eye and you can go.
That's true.
It's so there's so much to be thankful for, because God still has a plan for me to still be here now. And so the kids, when my husband went home, he looked, I think, dazed, and he was telling me later, he was trying to put Vicks so that it can look like his tears are coming out because of the cold, but actually he was crying. And the kids, when they saw him, they knew immediately
something is wrong.
Mom is gone. In fact, my son was telling me, Mom, I almost fell on the stairs as I'm running up to my room, because each of them just left. So he just told them, Google about intubation and because they are this generation that everything is Dr. Google.
Yeah.
So they were able to come and see me when I moved to the ward. But then I had lost so much weight. I remember my son looking at my, because my collarbones were sticking out. And my daughter, on the other hand, couldn't look at me, so she kept looking down. And then finally she just lay on her hands, because it was quite hard.
I'm sure.
It was quite hard.
How are you now as a family unit?
We are closer. We appreciate every moment.
I'm sure.
Speak to each other. Well, not that we want, but I think it's gone to another level where we just want the best for each one of us, because we've been given a second time to be better and closer to each other.
I can imagine it makes you more intentional in all the things that you do.
Yes.
And some things you just don't have time for, because you have limited time, so you focus on
what's important.
That's true. That's true. How was the first time you decided to go back into the world? And by that I mean whether it's working, whether it's meeting with friends or family. How was that? Or have you done that? Or are you doing it in phases?
I'm doing it in phases.
Okay.
But the first time I went to a restaurant, I remember I was scared. I was really scared. And I had carried my oxygen
And did you go?
tank.
Like, is it for me?
At the back?
No.
Yes.
What?
Just in
Why
case.
Did you have to? Did you have?
because I was still trying to wean off oxygen.
I see.
So I kept thinking, you know what, and
Anything
then I'm
could
walking
happen.
everywhere with my oximeter, and I'm looking at it, and then my heart rates are going all over the place.
Oh, wow.
So, but now I don't work with the oximeter. I don't work with my oxygen. Oh, the first time I drove also, the car just decided to conk out in the middle of the road.
Uh-oh.
And just stopped, and there's so much smoke.
Oh,
so the policeman comes in and like, madam, what is it? Move your car, move your car. So I said, I don't think it can move. And then he looks at me, you're even having oxygen and you're driving? So he says, okay, move. So he was trying to move me with my oxygen to the next seat. But he was really kind. He drove, he moved, he pushed the car for me.
Okay.
So it's been interesting. But I am very... Crowds, I am not going, maybe supermarket, but I make sure I go the times when there are not so many people.
I feel you.
But now I am slowly getting used to it, but I still feel very, I'm super alert.
Okay.
Super alert.
Super cautious.
Yes.
Are you fearful?
Yes, there's a fear. And you keep wondering, what if?
Yeah. What are your coping mechanisms when you feel like that?
So I talk to myself, I pray, I talk to God a lot. In fact, what made me even survive all this, I think and a lot of people think I was very strong. No, I wasn't. I just used to talk to God a lot, but I used to use writing
journal. Okay.
as a way of dealing with whatever I was going through.
Great.
Yeah.
What would you tell someone who's going through a similar experience or an experience where they're fearful, they don't know about tomorrow? What would you tell them today?
I mean, just live every day, even every second, as it's your best day of your life. I mean, because you never know. You never know. Yeah. And yes, fear is there, but what can you do to change the situation? So if you are not in charge of whatever is around you, just let it all to God, and He will support you and He'll take care of you.
Amen. Through this whole experience, what has been your greatest encouragement and kept you hopeful and going each day?
Just knowing that I'm alive. When I wake up, I'm alive, and there's something for me that day to do. And then also it's been very interesting that a lot of people have been reaching out for me to support and direct them and tell them how it was for me.
Okay.
And so I talk to a lot of people who are either going through the same challenges, praying with them.
Oh, bless you.
So, yeah, so I'm supporting people.
You are. Two things. What led you to share your story first, for people to know and for you to be able to now be of assistance online and here on the show? And through this experience, like you said, when you have almost like a second chance at life, they sort of, are you now searching for, what's my purpose? Like, why am I here? Or why am I back? Have you found yourself in that space?
A lot of times, because I keep asking myself, because I thought I knew my purpose, but after this, I am still thinking, no, there must be something more.
Right.
So I'm still in the midst of searching to find out exactly what it is, because there must be something more to do. Yeah. But the reason why I shared is also to let somebody else know that COVID is not the end of life.
Good.
There is a second chance at life, and it can be I think it will be the best life now.
It will be the best life?
Yes.
I like that.
I believe so.
I like that. So as we finish, Elizabeth, what are you, first, how are you feeling today? It's now almost a year later.
Almost,
in 2 months, it's going to be a year later.
A year later, yes.
Exactly. How is your health now?
I'm thankful. I've made major.
From 5% to 75?
Yes. The milestones are amazing. I'm grateful to God for that, because it had to be Him. It cannot be anyone else, because also the doctors are still learning about the condition. So it must be God who's working in me, and so I'm grateful. I'm okay. I am trying to do things that I love doing. Yeah.
What are you doing more now?
The other day I went and volunteered for some work in church. Okay. I said, let me do this. I've not felt like I want to. Before I used to volunteer for counseling, but not yet. Okay. I first have to work on me. I see. If I move on. But I'm just grateful that there are things to do, there are places to go. I'm able to drive. I'm able to do a lot of things for myself. That I am grateful, because for a long time you'd have to have somebody else do many things for you.
I love that, how you said you first work on you and then you can help others. But even still, in the midst of your healing, you're still reaching out and helping others at church. God bless you, my dear.
Thank you.
If I could ask, what are you most thankful for?
For life.
For life, of course.
And another thing, you actually don't think about breathing.
You don't think about breathing?
It's so automatic.
Yeah, you're right.
It's until when you're not able to breathe that you realize, oh my goodness, I've taken this thing for granted.
That's so true.
So let us never ever forget.
Right?
That it just takes
I remember
a snap of a finger.
Yeah, last year also I had that reminder, because you were, get used to the mask life. Like you just wished or missed to go outside.
Yes.
Just get some fresh air. Like you said, the small things you took for granted.
Yes.
Last year we got many reminders to just be grateful for all things.
Yes.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing your story.
You're welcome.
We wish you, I want to say complete recovery, but I feel like you're there. You're on the road to it. And to all those at home as well who may have gone through a similar experience, we wish you the same. And to the rest watching, let's just keep remembering and reminding ourselves, stay alert, stay safe, and most of all, stay positive. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Radisson Blue, for hosting us. Until next week, good night and God bless.